mutaisa kuti muda kuisa ngani pahekta?
Tarisira kuisa 30 kgs per hectare.
Tisina kutaura zvema kgs magona. Asi patichapima apa chatichaona itsanga dzembeu dziri kudonha.
Okay.
Chimbotiudzai dziri tsanga.
Patsanga apa totarisira pa 6 tsanga pa 1 meter.
Muri kuda kuti plant population pa hectare iite 66,000. Ndo yamuri kuda iyoyo. Saka tazviona varimi vari kuda 66,000 pa hectare. Saka isusu munda wese hatigoni kumeasure hectare yose tichitarisa. Tichaona pamita. Saka tida kuti tionesane manje kuti ava kana vachispesa line neline ne90 cm. Saka running meters ese pa hectare yawo ava anenge ari mangani. Tambobaya calculator mukati 10,000 square meters divided by interrow spacing ye 0.9 meters muchaburitsa nhamba iri kuma 111,000 thereabout. Saka iyoyo 111,000 ndo iri kuda kugovana 66 meters, iri kuda kugovana 66,000 dzembeu dzataurwa neava. But hatichakwanisi kupinda munda tichimezha dzese, tichamezha vhiri. Panotsikwa nevhiri iri tikaritenderedza toona kuti ipapo mameters mangani. Tisati tasvika ikoko toonesana kuti taona kuti muri kuda 66,000. Tikati running meters enyu i111,000. Saka mita yoga inoda mangani? Inoda tsanga 6. Handitika. Saka takuda kuchimezha kuti vhiri iri harina kugadzirwa riri mita iri. Ngatichirimezha tione kuti rinotiburitsira mameters mangani vhiri iri. Okay. Tiri kumezha vhiri redu kubva apa kusvika apa i1 meter, apo i50 centimeters, saka i1.5 meters. Mita imwe chete kana yanga ichida 6 tsanga, ko kana dzaa mita nehafu taakuda tsanga 9. Tauya pano pavhiri taakumaka apa, saka taakuchitenderedza vhiri redu takananga mberi. Iri vhiri ndo rinodhiraivha zvinotenderedza kuti mbeu ibude, fertilizer ibude. Saka chindiisiraiwo saga apo fertilizer, vamwe vachiisa apa pembeu. Taakuda kutenderedza vhiri iyi maki ikasvika payasvika apa toziva kuti takwanisa 1 meter yedu, 1.5 meters.
Apa ndimukona mbeu inobuda yamira apa pane madhara.
Apa varimi mukazvitarisa yanga yakahakwa hayo nedhaga riri apa iri, asi muri kuona patiri kubvisa dhaga iri mbeu dzedu ndo dzadonha pasi idzi. Ngatichiverengai kuti tawana mbeu ngani apa. 1 idzi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Saka mukatarisa mbeu idzi tawana 18. Sei tasvika ku18 pane different sizes. Mbeu yedu haina kugredwa. Dai yanga yakagredwa zvakanaka muchaona kuti iyi yakakura kudarika aka. Saka mbeu tinotarisira varimi kuti inge yakagredwa zvakaenzana ndokuti nhamba dzedu idzi dzibude zvakanaka. Mukatarisa idzi dziri pamaoko pangu apa, iyi neiyi zvatosiyana. Saka dzapinda dzakawanda nekuda kwokuti tashandisa plate yanga isina dzisina kugredwa. Uyezve zvatinofanira kuonesana varimi ndezvekuti iyi yanga iri rani yekutanga inogona kunge yanga yakakolekta futi dzimwe mbeu mukati umu. Saka ngatichiitai rani yechi2 iri free now tione kuti panobuda ngani. Idzi toisa pasaidi apa. Takuita imwe rani. Right, ndasvika apa. Tawana ngani apa? Ngativerengei zvakare. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right. Tawana 11. Zvakakosha izvi. Tiri padhuze na9 yatati tichida iya vanenge vakaisa kapercentage loss kekuti dzimwe dzinogona kudyiwa namakonzo, dzinogona kudyiwa nembeva, dzimwe dzotadzawo kumera, asi 9 dzavo dzavari kuda ndidzo idzi dzatawana idzi. Mukatarisa pafertilizer yatanga tichipima apo, pa9 mbeu tapasa. Ngatichiendai pafertilizer yatiri kutarisira kuti inge iripo pa9 mbeu. 9 mbeu idzi pataita masamu vachida 400 kg per hectare, taona kuti mbeu imwe neimwe matinoda magrams mangani. Pai tabuda tiri pa 6 grams pataita masamu edu. Saka iyi mukaitarisa iyi, tikatora kapu dzinopima dziya tiri padyo ne54 grams. Saka pa fertilizer tikutaridza futi kuti tapasa apa. Iyi ndo inonzi static calibration. Apa tazama kuonesana kuti sandi planter yatiudza plant population. Tisu takalculate plant population yatinoda, tikazouya kuzotaurira planter zvekuita. Saka takuchipinda manje planter yedu taiudza zvekuita. Ngatichidyarai. Mr. Jester, this is your field.
Yes.
From our background, we are extension staff, we have declared war against weeds. Why we are declaring war against weeds is because we have brought in nutrition, we have brought in fertilizer. And the fertilizer, the 400 kgs per hectare we are talking about, is just meant to feed the maize crop we are putting in. It's not intended for the weeds. So what do you have as your plan to make sure you have taken care of these weeds? We are starting on a clean sheet.
Yeah, if we see our land is like this after disking, we plant and then we put glyphosate, which is Roundup, with a high rate, 5 liters per hectare, and then the land will be clean. After that, the late weeds comes from the soil after germinating of maize.
Yes.
We put selective, like Nastera Star.
Yeah, there are so many of those herbicides, the pre, the post, the selective, the non-selective.
Yes.
Where do you really get them?
From ZFC, Agricola, registered companies.
Farmers, last year, previous years, we have had problems in terms of herbicides use. Some of the problems we encountered in the previous seasons about herbicide use, they include non-functioning of the so-called herbicides. The weeds that were intended to be killed or destroyed by the herbicide did not die, suggesting that the farmer used more money than was intended. In some instances, our farmers got a herbicide that was said to be selective in soybean, and they applied in a soybean field and burnt all the soybean. In some other people did it on maize. So we have an issue of wrong targeting of herbicides. We have an issue of more cost in terms of having bought the wrong herbicide. We also have an issue of failing to make recourse having bought the wrong herbicide. So we are encouraging you farmers to buy herbicides from reputable agro dealers. Not only herbicides, all agrochemicals should be bought from reputable agro dealers such that when you have problems, they are traceable. When you also use the herbicides, we also had some challenge in the previous years. We want to make sure we do the proper timing. When do we put the herbicides? On the herbicides packages, they tell us it 4 leaves, 3 leaves. Let us not delay. If we delay, we end up using higher rates. And if we use higher rates, it suggests that we are ballooning the cost of production. Then the other issue, we have got to be mindful about herbicides. Herbicides do not or are not applied on their own. They are put in a mixture with water. So we want to make sure the amount of water that carries the herbicide per hectare is the correct amount of water. Then having used the correct amount of water, either as a tank mixture or a knapsack mixture as we recommend, let's then have people moving at recommended speeds. I've seen people using correct tank mixtures, but then you find people moving at faster speeds. Where you have chemicals that suggest to you a tank mixture of say 200 liters per hectare, or they say 300 mils in a knapsack, the background assumption there is people are moving at 1 meter per second. So farmers, there you have it. These are the tenants we have to look after or we have to take care of when we are using herbicides.
One important aspect then that we need to consider after our planting and after germination of our crop is the establishment of the crop. It's one of the critical tenets of good agriculture practices. We need to make sure that every space that needs to be covered has been covered. And farmers would then ask, what is good germination? When do I need to come in and either replant or gap fill? As a rule of thumb, we can say farmers need to replant when we have got less than 50% establishment, because already most of our yield is gone. But we can gap fill when we have got also about 80% to 90% establishment or germination of our crop. It's a decision that a farmer has to come in and make early. We can only gap fill within 14 days of emergence. As we know, depending on environmental conditions, sometimes our maize takes between 7 to 10 days to germinate. So we make use of that time to come and see what is the germination percentage, what is the percentage of establishment, and then we make that critical decision. We cannot come in after 2 weeks or up to 3 weeks and say we now want to come and replant, because the result is that we have got an even crop, which is not uniform, which gives a lot of management practices. It means you also have to come in and fertilize at different times. Even harvesting is also affected. It's easier to harvest a uniform crop than in an even crop. Here we can see behind us, we have got a very good germination, and still some of the crop is still germinating. We really have to be careful and see whether all the crop is germinated. We have got that crop that is behind me. It's unfortunately it's a little bit muddy there, but you see it's still coming up. We do not want to come in and replant when we have got some crop that is still germinating. It is very expensive for the farmer in terms of seed. It also is not practical for the farmer to do that. So it is especially important for our farmers to come in and replant when it's the right time. But the decision to replant, remember, it comes with the equipment cost, that is fuel, human cost in terms of labor, the people who are going to replant, even the fertilizer cost, because you are not so sure whether the same line that you had used before is the same line that the planter is going to come in. So those costs are very critical. We are talking about farming as a business. Let's consider them before we make rushed decision on whether to replant or just to live like that.